Om Shanti. Om Shanti, Yogesh Bhai.
Hello, Om Shanti.
Let me welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Also a special welcome to all the guests joining us for the first time. Today's topic is very beautiful. Who owns your happiness? Who is joining us all the way from Turkey? Welcome, Brother Yogesh. Let me give a little brief introduction about Brother Yogesh. Actually, I know him for many years. Brother B.K. Yogesh Sharda, he's originally from Africa with an Indian background and brought up in London and Oxford, England. Brother Yogesh Sharda has been a personal development trainer and workshop facilitator for over 20 years, presenting many hundreds of seminars, workshops, and courses for businesses, hospitals, universities, youth organizations, and local community groups throughout the world. So this is a brief introduction. Topic is very nice. Thank you, Brother Yogesh. Welcome to Southall, London. And there are many new people who is joining. There are about 50 on the Zoom and plus on our webcast. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello and good evening to everyone. My thanks go to Karuna Ben for the invitation to be with you tonight for this event organized by the BK Center in Southall. So thanks for allowing me to be with you. And I also recognized a few friends who are here tonight on this webinar who I think may have heard before some of the things which I'm going to share tonight. I just need to check that, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you, Yogesh Bhai.
All right, okay. So there are, of course, so many topics to explore when one begins to discover spirituality and apply spirituality in life. But one of my favorites is to do with happiness. I enjoy being happy and I like to see others happy. When others are not happy, then I feel, what can I do to help to create that happiness? And I also do believe that the main thing which is driving our behavior in day-to-day life is this need to experience happiness. When one is really happy in the heart, then the head works very differently to when the heart is not happy. The head tends to overwork or work in complicated ways when the heart is not happy. And so I believe that learning to be happy and look after your happiness and also share that happiness with others is a great skill and an art, and one which I think especially we need to pay attention to nowadays. And what I'm finding also in these current times, as we're all challenged in so many different ways, our regular patterns of living are disrupted, and perhaps the escape routes which we may usually have when we feel emotionally burdened, maybe going off to see friends or to a coffee shop or a restaurant or a cinema. And so those routes have been blocked for some time. And it's as though each person has had to come face to face with their own emotional condition and learn to deal with it. And I find that those who have already been working on looking after the emotions, managing the mind, and have developed some skills within that, they are better able to pass through these times rather than those who maybe have only given their attention to the outer world in terms of work and entertainment, and all of that. And so we'll be exploring also tonight the inside story of happiness. I saw a comment there about the sound maybe not coming across clearly. Do we need to check something?
Um, no, I think it's quite clear.
Okay, all right. So my own journey in this spiritual path began when I was quite young. I was maybe 8 or 9 years old. And of course, when one builds spirituality into life, then you learn to observe your mind and understand the behavior of the mind. And one of the things which I think I have concluded from my own experience and from the great things I've heard from some wonderful teachers I've met is that life is ultimately a mind game. Just as it is said, sport is a mind game, or business is a mind game, politics is a mind game. I believe life is the ultimate mind game. And if I know how to take care of the mind, how to respect the mind, how to live in accordance with my mind's needs, then life seems much more pleasant. But when the mind part is not given proper care, then what happens is we experience a lot of stress through life, or we have collisions with others in our relationships, or we find ourselves getting maybe depressed or upset. And so the happiness tends to suffer. So let's look at the question, and perhaps I'd ask you to reflect on this for yourself, that what makes you feel happy? And I'm sure everybody has their own personal list and what you'd put in that. But then a second question related to that is, when you find that your happiness disappears, when your happiness reduces, what causes that to happen? Why does one's happiness go away? Why is it that we may be feeling very high one moment, very happy, but then sometime later that reduces? And often we say, well, it's because of this person or this situation or something which happened. And that's the way, excuse me, that's the way most of us live, is we consider that the way I feel inside is a result of the things which are happening on the outside. And when we do that, when we live with that approach to life, it's like I'm saying that my happiness does not belong to me. It belongs to other people. It belongs to certain individuals in my life behaving in the way that I would prefer. Then I'm happy. Or if circumstances are as per my plan and my liking, then I'm happy. But if my happiness is based upon circumstances and other people, when they shake, when they move, when they change, which they will, then my happiness will also shake. And so that kind of happiness is what we describe as circumstantial happiness. Or sometimes instead of really being happy, we may simply be having a good time. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but it shouldn't be that my entire happiness is based upon being in a certain place or with certain individuals. And I think that the message of spirituality and what we're interested in is, let me own my own happiness. Can I maintain my happiness even as I pass through adversity? Even when I'm faced with failure, with criticism, or with opposition, Do I still own my happiness? And that sometimes we describe as one of the skills of emotional intelligence. There are many kinds of intelligence that we can talk about. And here is a summary of what I consider to be three of the main intelligences. And I've written this up in a little diagram. I'm hoping you can see this. So three of the main intelligences we require, I believe, in order to live well. And of course, the one that's we're most used to is this one here, IQ. And for many, many years, IQ was the only intelligence that people really talked about. And it was to do with how well a person would do in their academic life and in their career and so on. And if somebody scored high on an IQ test, we would say, well, she or he is very intelligent. But there is more required in order to be successful and happy in life today. And one of the big areas that I believe requires a lot of intelligence is a second one, which is to do with how to handle people, dealing with people, handling different personalities, managing relationships. And it's for good reason that the word intelligence is used here. It's an emotional intelligence. How to handle somebody whose personality is very different to yours. How to deal with criticism. How to handle being accused without any basis for something for which you have nothing to do with. How to deal with personal failure. How to handle a sudden change of circumstances. And it does need conscious attention to understand how thoughts work, how attitudes work, and how emotions can be managed. And we're going to look at that a bit more in a moment. And whilst on this point, I like to make a difference between two experiences of life. One I would call as existing, and I think the majority of people are in the existing mode. And that's where you experience life as this, that you go through life and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes you are praised, sometimes criticized, sometimes you may be the center of attention, other times everyone ignores you. And when you're in the existing mode, then the way you feel is based upon all of those outside things. And so your emotions, your happiness goes up and down, up and down. And it's rather like being on an emotional roller coaster. But to truly live, which I think is what we are all interested in, to truly live means, again, you pass through all those various experiences. You win, you lose, you may be criticized, praised. All of that happens. But in the living mode, it's as though one has made a conscious decision. One has signed a contract with the self. That is to say that my peace of mind and my happiness is my personal property and it's non-negotiable. It's like I've made that pledge to my own self. So even when you pass through these different experiences and scenes of life, you don't sacrifice your peace of mind and happiness. And I believe that the difference between existing and living comes to one main thing, and that is I choose how I wish to see situations and people in life. I may not be able to control what life brings in front of me, but I can control how I choose to receive that. In other words, the choice of vision and the choice of attitude is in my own hands. But when I am consumed with what I don't like about life, or I don't like about other people, then naturally my emotions will go up and down. I'll be on that roller coaster, sometimes elated, sometimes downhearted. But rather than that, if I choose to occupy myself with what sort of attitude do I wish to have? How do I want to respond to this person or situation? When my attention is on how I wish to respond, then I believe that's part of the upgrade from existing to living. And that's possible for every single person. And meditation plays a very big part in being able to access your own inner wisdom and to bring that out in your day-to-day life. Okay, let's think of an example. Let's say, for example, it's a wonderful, nice sunny day, and you're out somewhere in the countryside. Um, the birds are singing, the streams are flowing, the flowers are blooming, the rabbits are jumping. Everything is just perfect. And you have your favorite people around you, your best friends and your favorite relatives. And also there's a large table of your favorite food. Plus your favorite music is playing as well. And you feel so happy, you feel things just could not be better. You're full of joy. And then it's time to eat. And so you sit down at the table, and just as you're about to take your first bite of the food, your phone rings. And as you answer the phone, you receive some news about somebody you know, maybe in another country, who's had, let's say, some kind of accident, and it's a bit serious. They have been rushed to the hospital. And then you close the phone, and what would you do next? Would you carry on with the party, with the meal as before? Or would you feel like, I don't want to carry on now? Most people may feel, well, I would be worried, I wouldn't feel happy anymore, I'd be a bit concerned about this other person. But let's look at that more closely. What has changed before the phone call and after the phone call? The food is still there, the sun is still shining, the friends are still there, the rabbits are still jumping, the flowers are still blooming, before the call and after the call as well. So it means those were not responsible for your happiness. But the only thing which has changed is your thoughts have changed. And because your thoughts have changed, therefore your emotional state has changed. It could even be that the news that you received was fake news, or somebody made a mistake. It wasn't your friend, it was somebody else who maybe had an accident. And so this tells us that whatever you are experiencing, whatever is your emotional state, is actually not because of situations and circumstances, it's because of your thoughts. Which means that even as you pass through adversity and challenges in life, if my mind, that is my thoughts, are in my own coordination, if I'm able to have some kind of control over my thoughts, I will also be able to own the way I feel. And perhaps that's one of the main lessons of self-awareness or meditation or spirituality is this, that my thoughts and my feelings are my first responsibility. Why? Because the thoughts that I produce, the way I'm spending my thought energy, I believe that's the basis of one's entire life experience. Now, I'm sure many of you on this call already do some kind of meditation. I would say also there's a difference between people who meditate and people who are meditators. In the sense that many people do meditation to de-stress, to handle the challenges of life, to face the difficulties that come up from day to day. And that's fine, that can be enough for a person. But to be a meditator means it's a lifestyle. That means as you go through day-to-day life, one part of you is naturally vigilant and just checking to see, what kind of thoughts am I having? Am I thinking too much? Am I wasting this precious, precious fuel of thought power with unnecessary thinking? Why? Because meditators understand the most important energy we have is the energy of our thoughts. Now think, for example, of an athlete who wishes to win the gold medal in the races. So for her or for him, eating healthy is a lifestyle. Such a person will naturally be aware what I eat, when I eat, how much I eat. Because for an athlete, maintaining optimum weight is essential. And it's the same also for meditators, who we may describe as a mental athlete. As I go through the day, I don't want to overspend my thought energy. What happens when we think too much is the mind becomes tired. When the mind is tired, patience level goes down, tolerance level goes down, we misunderstand things and people, and we respond disproportionately to what's in front of us. And all this causes our happiness to go out of our hands. So just to finish off this particular diagram, this was showing us that EQ is what you require when you're dealing with people. And the highest of all is known as SQ, or spiritual intelligence, and that's connected with yourself. And we'll look at that in a little while. Spiritual intelligence is to do with your sense of purpose in your life and your sense of identity. So let's look more closely some of the factors that are involved in maintaining our own happiness and being the master of my happiness. So the first thing is this: taking better care of the mind. When the mind is weak, then we get easily influenced by the things around us. And this then causes the thoughts to go out of control and our happiness disappears. So how to take better care of the mind? So one thing is to learn to build into your life moments of silence where you can recharge your soul battery. And what I'd like to do, and I always try and encourage people to do, is to start off even with little exercises to go from the mode of doing to the mode of being. And so I'd like to share with you a little exercise in relaxing the body and relaxing the mind. It's called a creative visualization. Let's do this. It takes about 3 minutes or so. And what I'd suggest, if you are sitting on a chair, if you can have your back straight and your feet flat on the floor. And I'll just guide you through a simple exercise and just being able to experience the peace and the stability which is already within your own consciousness. Okay, so let's do this. If you wish, you can have your eyes closed or have them half closed. And just try and follow as best as you can. And so let's take these few moments just to visit the peace which is already there inside me. And so just relax the body and relax the mind. So just bring your attention in towards yourself. Now bring your attention up towards your face. Bring your attention to the center of your forehead. Here at the center of your forehead, picture a small room. This tiny room is your quiet room of peace. Your quiet room of peace is your private and personal space. And when you are inside your quiet room, you feel very relaxed. This is the place where you can be yourself. Inside your quiet room, you are safe, you are secure, you are free from the pressures and the demands of the outside world. Inside your quiet room, you can let go of your daily roles and responsibilities. Feel the peace and the wonderful silence of your quiet room. And just allow your mind to absorb this atmosphere of serenity, tranquility. And as you do so, the thoughts begin to slow down. The mind becomes quiet, calm, relaxed, peaceful, and free. Just be with this feeling of peace in your mind for 1 minute. Okay, thank you. So, I'm hoping you feel a bit more relaxed after that. And if this works for you, I would suggest try to do it every day, at least a couple of times a day. Just as our body requires oxygen, water, rest, and so on, so too the mind requires peace. And the way we live in most big cities is quite disrespectful to the mind. And so it's important to build these moments of silence into the day, visit the peace inside you, and recharge your soul battery. By doing that, you have greater power over your own emotional state. Your happiness comes back into your own hands. Challenges definitely come to your happiness in the day, in the form of people or situations not working out as you want them to, sudden changes in the program, and all the other challenges we're currently passing through. But if I have this inner strength by learning to take care of my thoughts, then I have this steadiness. My happiness will not easily be pushed over. And so very necessary, I think, to have moments of silence as part of my daily routine. Sometimes we say stress causes me to lose my happiness. There's a little formula connected with stress, just to show us what we need to pay attention to. So two things involved with stress, and of course a simple mathematical problem. If we want to reduce the stress in our lives, what should we do? And of course we can try to reduce the pressure, but we can also work on increasing our inner resilience. And mostly what people only do is they work to try to reduce the pressure by changing their job, changing where they live, changing something in their relationships. And fine, if you are able to do that for a while, then that's good. But it's not so easy to make major changes in life. But what we all can do is we all can work on increasing our inner resilience, the resilience of the mind. And there are two main things which do that. One, we've mentioned already, taking better care of the mind, learning to respect the mind with moments of silence and meditation. Second thing is an upgrade in the way I see things. In other words, my attitude and my vision towards life. Now, one part of that is to do with our relationships with other people. It's often within relationships that we experience a lot of happiness, but also a lot of distress as well. And so why does that happen? How can we learn to balance our relationships so my happiness is not in the hands of others? Now, of course, we come into relationship with others, whether it's family or friends or others, because we want to share kindness, good feelings. We want to share love with others and receive love from others. But there's something which has to balance the love which we experience in our relationships if we want that to remain steady. And so here's my next little diagram to show what has to be balanced with love in our relationships. So those relationships are ones in which there is the give and take of happiness. So here we go. Bit of information here. And so here we see a scale. And what it's telling us is that as well as being loving to others, I also need to be detached from them. These two things always go together. Any quality, any virtue must be balanced with another, with its equivalent. And in terms of handling relationships, there's always a healthy spiritual distance to be had between any two individuals, even somebody who may be your child or your spouse. Now, what I find is that in some parts of the world, people tend to be quite distant from each other emotionally. And maybe that's not so good. But where I live in the Mediterranean region, people tend to be rather like this. So maybe this is not so good, but also maybe this is also not so good. But I believe the right way to be with others is to be like this. Now, if you're emotionally stuck to any person, if you're entangled emotionally with someone, if that person has a bad day, goes a bit crazy, or behaves in a way you don't like, it will affect you a lot as well. Your mind will lose its peace, its happiness, its stability, and you may feel upset, worried, angry, and so on. But if you're like this, and somebody else goes a bit crazy one day or behaves strangely, you are still stable. And your stability will help the other one to stabilize. This condition, which I would consider to be a form of spiritual maturity, is this here, the balance of being detached from others and also being loving to others. These two things must go together. But what happens mostly in people's relationships is there is too much emphasis on the loving side. And then that love becomes corrupted. That love changes into possession. And you try to own someone and own that person's behavior. And then if that doesn't work, then one tries to control the other. And if that doesn't work, we may put pressure on someone to behave as we want them to behave. And we might make certain demands on them. Unless you do this, I will not do so and so. And then it just gets deeper and deeper into dependency, it becomes attachment. And where, I find that somewhere at the roots of all suffering, you will find attachments. Attachment that leads to jealousies, etc., etc. And so what started off as an emotional high has now become an emotional low. And of course, it's no fun when one is down there. That whole energy has changed into its opposite form. And that's because the detachment is missing. That love has gone out of balance. Now, some people go too far, too much emphasis on the detachment side. And so they might become a little bit cold in their relationships, a little bit distant, rather formal, a bit aloof, and they come across as being a bit uncaring. So some may be too far this way, some may be too far the other way. But I believe the place to be is here, in the balance. The balance of being both detached and loving. And that allows our love for others to remain clean and pure. And therefore, there's then an exchange of real happiness and also real respect. Now, how to do that? This is very much connected with what you see when you see another person. That, in turn, is based upon how you see yourself and how you answer the question, who am I? In the study of Raj Yoga meditation and self-awareness, as many of you would know, we believe the first truth, the first form of spiritual understanding is I see myself as a spiritual being, a spiritual energy, or a soul. And we see that soul as the point of living energy in the center of the forehead. And additionally, when you see another person, whoever that person is, somebody you know, somebody you don't know, even your own child, spouse, parent, let me first see another person also as the soul. And I believe that is what is missing in our relationships today. Because that's missing, the emotions go up and down. Today, it seems to me, people live in the second layer of relationship. The second layer is you see someone as maybe a family member of yours, or you see somebody's race or culture or age or religion or nationality or socioeconomic group. So when I see somebody as any of those things, I'm relating to someone on the second layer of relationship. The first layer has been suppressed. That's what needs to be resurrected once again. The first layer of our relationship is our spiritual relationship. In other words, the soul to soul relationship. And when I really practice to see another as the spiritual being, as the soul, what's going to happen is naturally I will be able to generate genuine respect and a real love for the other. It also makes you protected from absorbing the stress and the anger of other people. This we call as living in soul consciousness. Soul consciousness is not something just to know or to accept or to believe, but it is to be practiced. And when we practice the soul conscious stage, it is the game changer. And I will begin to become free from the game of giving and taking of sorrow. Let me share a couple of examples which I find quite profound. One is a story which maybe some of you are aware of the give and take of sorrow. And again, this is can be found in various traditions. The story is of an old man who was considered to be very wise. And he lived in a mountain village. And one day a young guy wanted to test him to see how wise is he really. So this old guy was sitting, just relaxing. And this young guy came in front of him and started to hurl abuse at him. insulting him, swearing at him, saying all kinds of terrible things to this old man. But no response from the old guy. So the young man went and had a rest, came back, tried again, but still no response from the old man. And eventually this young fellow, he got exhausted and he said, I'm calling you so many bad words. I'm insulting you so much. Why don't you say something back to me? And the old man, he looked up at this young guy and he said to him that if somebody gives you a gift, but you don't accept it, then in whose hand does the gift remain? And a simple analogy, but so powerful that if there is a giving, then I have a choice whether to take or not to take. And one of the things we study in our practice is don't give sorrow, but also don't take sorrow. If I, for example, eat a banana and give you the skin, or eat the apple and give you the core, would you take it? No, you may feel, well, this is not useful, this is rubbish, so why should I take it? In the same way, if somebody is giving me a rubbish attitude, rubbish energy, it's bad, it's wrong of that person to give that to me, but then it's also my mistake to accept it and to make myself angry or upset. Everyone knows that to give sorrow is not a good thing, we shouldn't do it. But the habit of taking sorrow is also a very deep thing in most people. That's a habit we have to break in order to look after our own happiness. And it's not just in relationships with others, but it's also in our relationship with ourselves as well. Not to take sorrow from situations, not to take sorrow from my own mistakes. And we all fail sometimes, don't we, at something? There's nobody who has never failed at something. But can you remember the first thing which you failed at? The first thing you could not do properly? And I would say, excuse me, I would say the first thing that we fail at is walking. When you first tried to walk as a baby, you must have fallen down many times. But what do parents do when the baby falls down? They lift the child up and they say, try again, try again, try again. Even though the baby may not want to or may cry, but they do it because it's only through that the child will learn to balance, to use the legs properly, to develop the muscles and so on. Now just imagine if the first time the baby falls down, the parents were to say, well, this walking is not really for you, is it? You're not very good at walking, so forget it. You're a failure at this. Don't waste your time. So if they said that, then even today we'd all be crawling around on the floor. Now the same analogy you can apply to your mind. Your mind is your child. And so when you fail at something, okay, I must accept. It didn't work out the way I wanted it. The three things I find useful. Number one, let me quickly identify what is the learning potential for me here. What is the lesson for me here? Think about it and even write it down if it helps you. Identify the lesson. Number two, forget the situation. No need to keep thinking over it again and again. Let it go. It's in the past. The past is called the past for a reason, because it's gone past you. So let me allow it to be the past. Third step is move on. Take the lesson with you and move on, but forget the situation. And I find, and again, it's my experience, that if I really have identified what there is to learn, then it's like one's conscience gives permission to let it go. If I keep thinking about my failures, my weaknesses, the mind gets heavy and the smile disappears. But what I've noticed in some amazing people, these great yogis and so on, is they don't waste their time in feeling guilty for too long. Yes, if I make a mistake, I should realize I made a mistake. I should apologize if it concerns somebody else. I should learn to forgive myself too. But it's important to take the lesson and keep moving on. If I become heavy, happiness disappears. If I learn to keep myself light, I will continue to grow, to evolve, and to mature. So, hoping some of these ideas are useful for you and you can apply in your life. And I think it's time for me to stop there and just wait for further instructions from Karuna there.
Shall we ask if anybody has any questions? Or they can type it, or they can ask, we can unmute their phones. We got 5 minutes, they can ask any questions.
For me, brother, thank you very much indeed. Very clear, very, very clear, very, very well put. I totally understood. I'm going to practice. Thank you so, so very much. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Hi, this is Jazz from Ealing. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was really simple to follow as well. I've written quite a few notes, and I thought it was very inspiring, and you came across really well. I like the diagrams; very easy to understand, and you put it across like crystal clear. So thank you very much. Really useful.
Thanks for the encouragement.
You're
Hi,
welcome.
this is Candice from Joburg, South Africa. I really enjoyed that. I just wanted to find out, how can we practice this? I'm a single mom. How can I practice this with my
from South
9-year-old?
Africa, she said.
Sorry, I couldn't really hear that.
I was just wondering how I can practice these principles with
She's
to
from
help
South
him.
Africa. I think sound is...
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's better now, yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to find out how my son and I can practice these principles together in a house where it's just the two of us cooped up, especially now during such trying times.
Yeah. May I ask where you are, which city you're in?
I'm in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Joburg, yeah. Well, if I may say, we have colleagues, and they're actually very good friends of mine. We have a meditation center in Joburg itself. And I think they are doing lots of online activities, meditation courses and seminars and workshops. It may be a good idea to get in touch with them and just see, what maybe you can join. And of course, once the lockdown situation is over, then you can physically go there and take part in the activities. So that would be my suggestion initially, to get in touch with them, and we can help you with addresses and contact details too.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Hello, Yogesh. This is Shashiben. Om Shanti.
Hello.
That was so nice, so nice. And they were many saying hello to you. Om Shanti. Hello.
Hello, nice to see you both. Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. I'm a fan of you. You know that?
I've
It's
learned.
so good. The way you presented it, every word was so clear, every thought was so clear, Everything was so
Especially the
clear,
diagrams.
beautiful,
Especially the
and the
diagrams.
special diagrams. And the way you presented, the way you look, I like everything of you. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
And thanks to Karuna, who invited. Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you to all of
Yogesh
them.
Bhai. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Okay, thanks to all of you.
Thank you. That was fantastic. Good start to my weekend.
Shall we do a few minutes meditation, Brother Yogesh?
Yes, okay.
Yeah. You're
Okay.
going to do commentary or shall we put the music on?
As you like.
If you can conduct the commentary, it will be good.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Once again, I would suggest if you're on a chair, try and have your back straight, your feet on the floor. And so let's start with the first and the most important question. That is, who am I? I know there is more to me than my daily roles and responsibilities. There is more to me than the labels that I carry every day. There is more to me than the masks I wear in daily life. When I look in the mirror, I see the reflection of my face, my body, but there is more to me than simply this. And so I bring my attention up towards my face and up to the center of my forehead. And here I picture a star of peaceful light. It's a wonderful star of peaceful energy in the center of the forehead. From this star, waves of peaceful energy radiate throughout my body. This beautiful star of peace in the center of the forehead. This is me. This is my true self, my real self. This is I, the soul. I, the soul, I am this living spiritual energy. I, the soul, I am eternal. I can never die. And deep inside, I, the soul, there is a reservoir of inner peace. And this peace has always been inside me. And now I choose to emerge this peace once again. All I have to do is just remember. To remember I am peace. I am light. I am eternal. I am free. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Yogesh. I really enjoyed it very much. I can see we're getting very good message. Everybody enjoyed it. They're saying their battery's been charged. So please come again. Let me know whenever you're free time. South Hill is always ready to welcome you. That would be nice. Thank you. Om
Thank you.
Shanti. Thank
night.
you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Om
Thank you,
Shanti.
brother.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thanks a lot. Om Shanti.
Thank you, brother.
Om Shanti.
Brother.
Om Shanti.